In this video, we will be looking at the point-slope form of the equation. At the top of our sheet, we see the point-slope formula is given to us. That is highlighted now in yellow. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. For these examples, we will be writing the equation of the line using the point-slope formula that in the first example has a slope equal to 4 and passes through the point 2, 5. Well, let's identify what these pieces of information mean. First off, up here at the top, the y sub 1, this is going to be the y value of the point. Then we have our slope, which is m. And finally, we have x sub 1, which is the x value of our point. In the first example, they have already given us the formula. All we have to do is identify all of the pieces. So the first thing they wish for us to identify is the slope. So here the problem tells us it has a slope of 4. The y value of the point here is 5. The x value of the point is 2. So our y sub 1 then is 5. X sub 1 is 2. Once we have identified these three variables, we simply substitute them into the formula. Y sub 1 is equal to 5. So we have y minus 5 equals m. In this case, m is equal to 4 times the quantity x minus x sub 1, which in this case is 2. So all we have done is taken our m and the two values that we get from the point and substituted those into the equation, and we now have this equation. I'll just write it all in one color here, in what we call point-slope form, and we were going to leave that in this form for this particular example. We will be solving for y in later examples. So looking at B, has a slope of 8 and passes through this point. So let's identify our slope, our x sub 1, and our y sub 1. So we have the formula y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So now we will substitute y minus y sub 1 equals m. Well, let's go back and put the y sub 1 in. The y sub 1 in this example is a negative number, so I went ahead and put that in parentheses. Our slope is positive 8. And then we will have x minus, and x sub 1 in this case is 3. So we have completed our substitution process. Now we just need to simplify. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So y minus negative 1 becomes y plus 1. And we will leave the slope the way it is and leave the parentheses. We will not simplify the right-hand side. We will leave it in the form y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So there's another example of an equation written in point-slope form. The next equation has a slope of 0 and passes through the point 2, 7. So again, we identify our slope, identify our x sub 1, identify our y sub 1, write down our formula, then substitute y minus, and in this case y sub 1 is 7, so we substitute that with a 7. Our slope is 0. And our x sub 1 is 2. So we replace that x sub 1 with a 2. So here we have an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. There's nothing that we need to do as far as subtracting negatives that need to be simplified, but we will go ahead and simplify this problem. Y minus 7 equals, and we have 0 times the quantity x minus 2. We could distribute, but anything that we multiply by 0 just becomes 0. So this whole quantity multiplied by 0 is just 0. So let us go ahead and solve for y. So we would add 7 to both sides, and we end up with the equation y equals 7, which indeed is a horizontal line with a slope of 0 that goes through the point, or the y-intercept 7. So this would be a horizontal line through the y-intercept 7. Our next example has a slope of 1/2, and it passes through the point 6, which is our x sub 1, 4, which is our y sub 1. Again, we write down the formula. And then do our substitution. Y minus, and then y sub 1 is a 4. That is going to equal our slope of 1/2 times x minus, and in this case, x sub 1 is 6. So here's our equation in point-slope form. Let us go ahead and write that in slope-intercept form, which means we are going to simplify or solve for y. So over here, we have this 1/2 that needs to be distributed. So go ahead and look at this 6. Can I take half of 6? Yes. And because I can do that, it's going to be easier to go ahead and distribute the fraction than it is to try to clear the fraction. So we're going to say y minus 4 equals 1/2 x, and then half of 6 is 3. We know that slope needs to be in fraction form, and that the number in front of our x is, of course, our slope. So we want to go ahead and keep this 1/2. Now to solve for y, we're simply going to add 4 to both sides. So we keep the 1/2 x, and then negative 3 plus 4 is a positive 1. So we now have our point-slope form taken down to slope-intercept form. We did the same thing over on C, where we had it in point-slope form. We went ahead and solved for y. This ended up to be a horizontal line with a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 7. Okay, on E, this is a little more difficult to see. I'm going to blow this up as best I can. I apologize for the noise. So this ordered pair, very microscopically there, we can see is 1, 5. So we have a point. Now we just need the slope. We can see that the line crosses the y-axis here at 3. So if we count up 2 and over 1, we find that our slope is 2. So we have a slope of 2, and we have our x sub 1 is 1, our x sub 2 is 5. So we have our x sub 1 and y sub 1 identified. We have our slope identified. So now we put it into slope-intercept form. This is going to be rather tight here. Equals m times x minus x sub 1, and I did run over into the other space. Substituting in our values, y minus 5 equals 2 times x minus 1, and this is actually our point-slope form. So we can leave that in point-slope form. For F, we have a word problem. And let me move this over so you see this a little bit better. So once again, we identified our point. We have our slope. We have x sub 1 equals 1, y sub 1 equals 5. Here's our formula. We substitute into the formula. There's nothing to simplify. We just have 2 times x minus 1 on the right-hand side and y minus 5 on the left-hand side, and we leave that in point slope form. So moving over to F, I'm going to again make a little bit of noise when I back this off a little bit. F. The day a tree is planted in the ground, it is 20 centimeters tall. This is our beginning height, so that will be our y-intercept. Excuse me. After this, the tree grows 2 centimeters every day. Write an equation in point slope form modeling the height of the tree in centimeters after a certain number of days. So if we have a y-intercept, we have a point. Our point is 0, 20. Our slope is 2. It is the rate of change. It changes 2 centimeters per day. So now we have an x sub 1 here with the 0, and we have a y sub 1 with the 20, and then our slope is 2. So we will write this in point slope form. So we are going to have y minus y sub 1, which is 20, equals 2 times x minus x sub 1, which is 0. We can simplify this on this side. Y minus 20 equals 2x, and then 2 times 0 is 0, so we do not need to write that down. So we had it here in point slope form. Go ahead and highlight that. There's our point slope form. To solve this for y and put it in slope-intercept form, at this point we need to add 20 to both sides, so we would end up with y equals 2x plus 20, and this would be slope-intercept form. Here is point slope form. The y equals is our slope-intercept form. Now sometimes they don't give us the slope, they give us 2 points. So in G and H, in both of these examples, they have given us 2 points. So let's go ahead and label our points. We have x sub 1, here's our x sub 2, then we have our y sub 1 and our y sub 2. In order to use point slope form, we need a point. Here we have a point, and we need the slope. So in order to find the slope, we will use the formula m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. We will substitute in our values. And let's see, y sub 2 is 5. Y sub 1 is also, no it isn't, y sub 1 is negative 5. So we need to put that negative 5 in parentheses, and that's all over x sub 2, which is 5, minus x sub 1, which is 0. So use your calculator. You go to y equals, you're going to end up with 10 over 5, which is simply 2. So our slope here will simplify to be 2. So to write this in slope-intercept form, we would do y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. We do need to simplify this, so y minus negative 5 becomes y plus 5 equals 2 times x minus 0. And we will leave this one in point slope form. For the next example, I'm going to extend this line down. And on this one, we will not leave it in point slope form, but we are going to go ahead and take it to slope-intercept form. So first off, just like previously, we need to find the slopes, so that means we need to identify our x sub 1 and x sub 2, as well as our y sub 1 and y sub 2. So slope is going to equal, since we have the formula right here to the left, I'll just go ahead and substitute our values in. We have 5 minus, I'm going to put this in parentheses, our y sub 1 is a negative 7. All of that is over x sub 2, which is 2 minus, and again we have a negative number, so I'm going to put that in parentheses. So we have 5 minus negative 7 all over 2 minus negative 2. So for our slope, we end up with 12 divided by 4, which is 3. So if you go to alpha y equals, enter this in exactly as it is, you should end up with 3. Now we will go to point slope form. So we will have y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Now our x sub 1s and our y sub 1s are both negative numbers, so we're going to have some extra parentheses here. So we'll have y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus, and here's where we have our extra set of parentheses. So let's fill in what we know. Y sub 1 is negative 7, so we will put negative 7 there. Our slope we just found was 3. And our x sub 1 value is negative 2. So we have now substituted those into the formula. Let us simplify. So we have y plus 7 equals 3 times x plus 2. And now we have it in point slope form. To solve for y, we will distribute on the right hand side and end up with 3x plus 6. Then we will isolate the y by subtracting 7 from both sides, and we end up with y equals 3x minus 1 to get us to slope-intercept form. So here we have several examples taking us through being given slope in a point, being given a graph, being given a word problem, and being given 2 points to get us to point slope form, which then can easily be solved for y to end up with slope-intercept form. Have a great day.